I have spent the past 4 years editing for, as well as observing some of the top creators on this platform. In today's video, I'm going to be unpacking the deep psychology behind a topic that is really undervalued in content creation: music. Because the truth is, when used right, music has the capacity to completely alter how we perceive the information in front of us. And the craziest part is that it doesn't even take that long. Studies have shown that the brain can assign meaning to what we hear in, get this, 0.1 seconds. That is a near instantaneous interpretation of what goes through our ears. And this all happens because of a part of the brain called the limbic system. The limbic system is the part of your brain that's responsible for your emotions and your memory. And the thing is, when your brain hears music, it begins to release dopamine, the same chemical that makes you feel good when you're eating, sleeping, or watching your favorite show. And that surge of dopamine creates an emotional association with the song, as well as the content it's paired with, of course. This is why different sounds have different meanings. And it seems crazy, but it's really just human nature. Although humans are complex creatures, we're still creatures, still animals, meaning that we still have primal urges and responses that we still hold inside of us. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we were literally living in the wild. We had to rely on the sounds we hear for our survival. So now it makes sense, right? A sudden sharp noise signifies to us there is danger. A soft hum might make us feel more safe and secure. And so music, all it does is simply tap into our primal wiring. But now I'm going to dive really deep into the emotional power of music. And to do that, I want you to watch these two scenes very closely. So how is it that the exact same visual story can have two completely different meanings through the music alone? Well, it's all because of an idea called emotional anchoring. The sound design acts as an anchor that we use to ground us into understanding how we interpret the stimuli in front of us. And that's why music doesn't just accompany a story, it grounds that story. It grounds us to a better understanding. And because of this, it can literally be used to reprogram how we take in what we see. So the question arises, why are creators not taking advantage of something so instantaneous and drastic on the viewer? Well, most of the time it's because most people just don't know where to start, right? And that's where intentionality comes into play. Because a lot of creators don't really have any intention behind the music that they use. Almost as if they're checking a box off a list. Hey, I need a song, let's just throw it on and call it a day. But that is missing out on so many of the opportunities that come with music. And you wanna know how I know this? Because I used to do it too. Until I realized that when I use music like that, just to cover up and check off a box on a list, that music actually doesn't mean anything. It's just white noise. Honestly, it distracts from the story. At that point, you are not utilizing music to give your viewer context on how to feel. And what is this? It's confusing. And confusing drives resistance. Resistance drives resentment. And when a viewer is resentful, guess what they do? They leave, because your content takes too much cognitive effort to understand how they should be feeling. And that's why it's so important that when editing, you're always asking the question, what do I want my viewers to feel right now? And when it comes to music, if you're not quite sure, a great way to discern what you want them to feel is just take two highly contrasting tracks, slap them on the bottom, and see which one resonates with what you're going for. That way, now you understand, okay, I want this to be a comedic effect. I want this to be more dramatic and emotional. Now you know, and now you have the platform to know where to look. Right? This is exactly what separates the mediocre to the expert. It's being able to shift your perspective to the people that you're marketing to. But now let's talk about something different. Let's talk about timing, because a lot of creators don't really understand the timing of their music. Great sound design often comes from knowing when to push, but also knowing when to pull back. So a great tip for this is to always be looking out for high and low moments of your music. Not only that, but look for moments where you could potentially crossfade two different tracks, where you go from one emotion to another without having to pick a perfect song for the moment. And for this, let me show you an example. Let's look at Mr. Beast, because he uses a lot of upbeat, high energy music to simulate excitement, fast pacing, etc. But we've all heard this before. What a lot of people fail to recognize is that he also does this.
You're currently at 18 marbles, and you're at 2 marbles.
It's okay. So sorry.
Remember when I talked about emotional anchoring? Well, that is exactly what Mr. Beast is doing. He sets the anchor of the fast pace and the high upbeat music to where the contrast of this incredibly emotional scene on top of the music makes that moment so much more effective and stand out so much more in our minds. And let's look at someone like Vox.
When there's an Atlantic hurricane in the forecast, you see a lot of these diagrams. These graphics show what's called the cone of uncertainty.
Their music is slower, atmospheric. It's literally designed to guide you into a state of deep focus and introspection. And this is the pattern that you'll notice, is that their music complements what is happening in the video. It builds and expands upon the world that is being built. It's intentionality. And speaking of intentionality, let's also discuss, while on the topic of timing, the idea of sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. And a common mistake I see in editors nowadays is they try to cram and force music into every single little crevice of their timeline. And to explain why this could be detrimental to you, let's look at a horror scene. Where everything is silent, where every creak, every movement, every whisper can be heard with precision. The silence is loud. And because of the silence, those moments where there's just a little bit of sound are 10 times more intense in our minds. Whether it's music versus silence, fast pacing versus slow pacing, contrast is what keeps the viewer engaged. If everything is loud and fast paced, then nothing is loud and fast paced. It's all about understanding the emotional journey that you want your viewer to go through. And so don't be afraid to pull back. The best editors know how to pull back. And on that note, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.